Good morning. Homicide detectives have spent the night interviewing people at a Brisbane park where a French exchange student was found murdered exactly 1 week ago.
By your actions, a beautiful young woman has died. She was a young, vibrant woman with her life ahead of her, a young woman with hopes and dreams.
28th of March 2014. Brisbane, Australia, in the park I smoked by Point recently. Past the storm and out. For heavy rain, usually busy place became quiet. It was a place where people came to run, walk the dogs, and spend time with friends, but early on the morning of that March day, there were very few people there. They, who was still in the park, noticed a woman who seemed to sleep on a bench under Ratton Day by the river. I think that she was homeless, and many passed by not paying attention, but someone decided, check if everything is in order, with her sources diverge. In who exactly it was, some say it was runner, others that homeless man when newspaper and the jacket she was covered with was pushed away. It turned out that naked, she was brutally beaten and raped, except for this. The girl was robbed. She had no pulse and she was not breathing. Her resuscitation was not successful. She was dead. Rescue services soon arrived at the scene and an investigation into the murder began. Although the police did not yet know who she was, they immediately had an idea of where to start the investigation. They went straight to the homeless shelter located near the park. The shelter had a curfew at 9 in the evening, and non-compliance with the rules led to the fact that the tenants were asked to leave the police station. It was necessary to check that everyone was in their seats, but one of the tenants was absent. He hasn't shown up in a few nights. Leaving all your stuff at the shelter.
Today, reporter Lauren Ellis joins us from Brisbane. And Lauren, are police any closer to solving this mystery?
Good morning, Georgie. Well, last night police said the search at this unit complex behind me was a critical part of the murder investigation. Detectives were seen entering the complex. They were inside for around 1 hour before they left with bags of evidence, and a man believed to be in his 20s was also seen assisting police with their inquiries.
Thousands of kilometers from here in France, a man sat behind your computer browsing social media when saw a post that shook him. Brisbane police published a photo of a young woman's jewelry whose identity they were trying to identify. She was found murdered in a local park. He immediately recognized the jewelry and contacted the police. He knew it was his girlfriend, 21-year-old Sophie Collombet.
Police have confirmed that they believe it was a foreign exchange student from France that was found on the banks of the Brisbane River and that she had been living here for around 1 year. And this breakthrough came after police received a phone call from the victim's boyfriend and also friend, who both said that she was missing. Now, police divers yesterday spent hours scouring the banks of the Brisbane River and also looking through CCTV footage for neighbouring businesses in the hope of identifying a suspect. At this stage, as you said, the woman's body is yet to be formally identified, but it is the third foreign exchange student to have been murdered in Brisbane in the last 4 months. Georgie?
All right, Lauren Ellis, thank you.
Sophia was rude. From France, she studied in Australia at university. Griffia arriving there last February on a student visa. She was a real adventurer, a person who excelled in many areas and was always ready for new challenges. Her brother Guillaume said that she was very curious and loved to travel. She had friends everywhere, but moving so far from loved ones is always a challenge, and for Sophie it was no exception. She was homesick and very much missed France, her family, and her boyfriend Boris. At some point the girl's condition worsened so much that her loved ones advised her to contact a specialist. Sophie immediately took their advice and made an appointment with a psychologist. In the course of working together, she was not only able to overcome homesickness, but also learned to cope with anxiety and significantly reduced the level of stress in her life. In fact, psychologists are professionals who help to cope with anxiety. Stress, gain confidence, and understand their actions. Pleases that more and more Boris was with her in Australia, but his visa expired, and when he was forced to leave, Sophie decided that later she would also return home. She worked very hard to save as much money as she could for the trip home. She did sales. She taught French and took on any job she could find. Her plan was to come home in June. Sophia always supported connection with her family, and on the 16th of March, she sent her mom an email completing it with words, "I love you, kiss." It was the last letter her mother received. On the 27th of March, Sophie was returning home from an evening class at Griffith University. Classes ended at about 20:30, and she was in anticipation of returning home. A classmate offered to give her a lift, but she refused and, together with a friend, got on the bus. Unfortunately, the friend became the last person to see Sophia alive. Getting off the bus and leaving her stop with an umbrella and a bag in her hands, Sophie headed to her apartment, which was located along the Brisbane River. Security cameras recorded her at about 9 o'clock on the Kurilpa Bridge. But what happened after that remains unknown, but the police knew one thing: it was brutal and violent attack from the spot. Crime: Sophia could see her apartment. Results: autopsies showed many terrible injuries that she suffered. She had bruises under her eyes, on her hands, elbows, and your feet bleed on, spine, and small punctures on the buttocks and feet. She died from significant head injuries, including hemorrhages and skull fractures of everything. She had 128 external injuries. When people passed by Sophie, she lay naked on cold, covered only by newspapers and a jacket. Girl still clung to life. Forensics found that Sophie remained alive for hours after the attack.
Police have released security footage of 21-year-old French student Sophie Collombet in the moments leading up to her murder. It's been almost a week since the business student was bashed to death beside the river in South Brisbane. More police will patrol the area overnight as the hunt for her killer intensifies.
Police divers found her umbrella in the Brisbane River. They're still looking for her clothes, boots, handbag, and possibly her smartphone and tablet. But what was the motive behind the murder? Police say at this stage there's no evidence to suggest the killer was known to Miss Collombet and are treating this as an opportunistic attack.
The Sophie murder investigation was massive. In it participated more 60 policemen. They couldn't find her clothes at. They had no weapons and no suspects. Many residents Brisbane were shocked, and outrage was palpable. Those who knew Sophie were completely devastated. Her roommate said she was kind, gentle, calm person who could even want to cause. She was harmed in the days after Sophie was killed in the park where she was found. Began to bring flowers and leave memorabilia. Notes turning the place into an impromptu memorial. Sophie was the 4th international student killed in the area in recent times, and although the killings were not linked, police said the situation was of deep concern. The police continued to gather evidence from the crime scene and examine additional CCTV footage from that night to see if there was anything important and indeed something that had been discovered. The same man who did not return to the shelter was recorded on security cameras in the same area. Where was Sophie that night? It was Benjamin James Milford. Benjamin had a criminal record for burglary and violent crimes. He was released from prison in December 2012 for assault and was then arrested again for violating parole conditions and was released in July of that year. He also had criminal records because of banned substances. Hooliganism and robbery were intensified. Photo patrols. Benjamina were pasted all over the city in the hope that someone sees him. A man was recorded boarding a train at South Brisbane Station at about 23:30 that night. The train completed its route at Bowen Hills Station, where he was seen again on security cameras. He looked anxious and headed towards the airport. It is believed that he spent the night near the airport before taking the train to Virgin Lakes. Where did he go next? That failed. His cousin wrote on social media urging him to go out on contact and talk to the police. The same advised him to do. His brother Josh, however, it did not give any results. Benjamin was wanted and searched for throughout Australia. Soon detectives got their first serious breakthrough on April 7th. The police were contacted by the hostel administrator from the city of Ballina. He said that Benjamin stayed there a few days ago. Investigators found out that he registered with the employment agency in Cows Harbour, New South Wales. Less than 2 weeks after Sophie Benjamin Millward was arrested, he said he only remembered part of what happened. "The fact that I did it is just fucking terrible. I did not want to." For this to happen, he also told the police that is a little addicted to intimacy. He was extradited back to Queensland so he could appear in court. Benjamin Millward was charged with unlawful imprisonment for armed robbery, rape and murder, and soon came the time for his preliminary hearing, at which the magistrate was to decide whether the evidence provided was sufficient to bring the case to trial. Hopeful evidence combined with eyewitness accounts helped chronicle the events. Benjal told police he didn't remember much of the illegal substances he took that night, but he did remember beating and raping Sophie. The girl approached the rotunda not long before 9 in the evening. As she reached home, Benjamin attacked her violently, raped and beaten before. Levy told her he would go for help, but did not go. Mali threw her things in the river and escaped. Benjamin said that panicked and instead of helping her bought a ticket on the train and left her to die. Also spoke at the trial, a medical examiner who stated that the DNC found under Sophie's nails belonged to Benjamin. The evidence really spoke for itself. Now that pre-trial trials were completed, only left wait for his trial to begin, but before he has to, trial set to begin for the man accused of killing French student.
The man accused of killing French student Sophie Collombet in Brisbane in 2014 has pleaded guilty to raping and murdering her.
Benjamin's lawyer stated that he regrets what he did and what he did, wrote an apology letter to Sophie's family. At the trial, a man cried sitting in the dock with his head down. Sophia's family came to Australia for the sentencing. They cried in the courtroom when they read out a statement about what the girl experienced before her death. Benjamin Millward was eventually found guilty and sentenced to life in prison for murder, but with the possibility of parole in 20 years, as well as 15 years for rape to be served simultaneously. To memorialize Sophia was set. Memorial stone depicting Mountain and Butterfly Mountain were visible from her home in France, and add a butterfly. Asked her boyfriend Guillaume. He told that in a few days after of her death, he saw a butterfly and asked her for comfort. The butterfly flew up and sat on his hand where it remained. Few minutes.